Welcome to the Long and Thick podcast, where we help you navigate the noise and cut through the bullshit in the health and wellness space.
We're twins.
I hope that made your ears feel like absolute fucking
Garbage.
rubbish. Yeah, you just instantly turn it off.
Straight basura.
We have 0 streams on this one for some reason.
Yeah.
We'll know why.
Yeah. Kiboshed.
Episode 15.
Yes, sir.
Here we are.
Here we are. Kind of talking about how training, whether it be designed or aimless, how it can be your true North Star or quicksand if not managed the right way.
Mm-hmm. And we're kicking things off here, moving forward for a little while with a different approach to starting episodes where we're just going to riff a little bit more about a few topics. One of them being the current coffee that we are obsessed with or enjoying, or have recently endeavored to sample. And so we'll start there. So
we will start there, and you're going to have to start there because I am on a caffeine cleanse. So I need you to just let me live vicariously through you.
Okay.
Suckle from the caffeine teat.
That little fucking burnt bean.
Yeah, of descriptors and things like that. So I can lament my next week and a half.
Yeah. Okay.
Or I can re-include it. So in your world, what's the coffee world looking like? What's torqued your melon?
Oh my God. Today I made, a little background. Recently, Daniel and I and another friend of mine placed an order for more glitch beans. Mm-hmm. So we have a growing obsession with all things Japan, which should be apparent to anybody listening. And when we were there, we went to Glitch Roastery and coffee and had just outstanding, unbelievable
it's an otherworldly experience for sure.
I sort of am pissed that I had those butter beans because they don't exist anywhere currently. And I actually emailed them today, but anyway.
Please bring it back.
Hello, inquiring. So we did an order recently and I bought 2 different bags of some pretty odd stuff. And this morning I made a pour over V60 of, it is gin, grapefruit, Sancho, and peach.
And what did you get out of that?
So do you know what Sancho is?
I don't.
Yeah, I was like, who is that? Whose fucking
How'd you
kid
get him
is
in
that?
my cup?
Yeah, and I can taste him because he's fucking doesn't wash. So Sancho is basically like the equivalent to black pepper, but a little bit more citric. In Japan, it is the Japanese prickly ash tree berries.
That is a mouthful.
Yeah, I've been fucking rehearsing that. I was like, I need to know for sure what this is and not fuck this up. And when I first had it, I was like, what the fuck am I tasting? Like I got little bits of the gin, I got little bits of the peach, and then I was like, what the hell else is, it felt like I was tongue punching a tree's butt. Like it was like just fucking spicy,
like piney, barky,
and then not, and then like light, and then clear, and I don't know. So to be honest, I don't like it.
Okay. But
I do want you to try it.
Okay.
So in a week and a half.
Yeah, for sure. I will be on that train for sure.
Yeah. And that's when I'll have the Ode brewer, or not brewer, the grinder is coming in. So
dope.
Yeah, that's an upgrade. So I'm really getting all the things that you're missing out on in the coffee.
Yeah.
Coffee
I mean,
space.
It's necessary. I do it like once a year just to really let caffeine decouple from my receptors, really reset my tolerance for it, my sensitivity for it. And I've kind of heard this analogy thrown around a couple times that when you're really down the caffeine rabbit hole, I mean, this can be said any number of ways, but the one that stuck with me the most is, when you first get into caffeine usage at any point in your life, you take your energy level from baseline, which is 0, and you put it to like 1 or 2, and you feel fantastic.
Sure.
And then that higher threshold starts diminishing. Then we're so habitualized in using coffee both as a mental additive or just enjoying the taste kind of thing.
The ritual,
The ritual, absolutely. However, if you really check in with yourself, we talk about that often too, it's like take mental inventory, physical, emotional, whatever. If you think about it, you're no longer at 0 most times. you are well into the deficit negative. You're like -3, and then
Right.
you start pounding your espressos, your coffees, your energy drinks to get you back to just feeling the 0.
Sure.
And that's usually a problem. And most people just do the zombie thing.
Yeah.
So we're like, oh, well, I haven't had my 4th cup of coffee yet. Like,
Yeah.
well,
Don't talk to the little fucking next to the live, laugh, love is like the moodier tablecloth that says, don't talk to me until I've had my coffee or the mug.
And I just say it at that point. It's like die, scowl, hate. It's the exact opposite. Same scripture, but it's not live, laugh, love anymore. It's just like the bizarre world version of it. So
like
yes, caffeine cleanse is alive and well. And we're past the gnarly part, but I miss it. I miss the little upticks. However, to anyone who has done this or not done this, you can confirm that once you do get your first cup of coffee back, that shit is like nuclear.
Orgasmic.
Yeah, you have, all the things just floating around. You feel like you can crack the next.
You hear fucking Jurassic Park playing 100%. Just with every sip.
So, but yeah, that's where we're at.
So wait, how you're doing a month?
I will do a bare minimum 2 weeks.
Okay. Like purely across the board. Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, that's bare minimum. I've done 2 weeks before, very beneficial. I've done the full month before, also very beneficial. It'll probably be 2 weeks.
Sure.
I also have way too much coffee resting. That's expensive. That
I know. It's like, maybe don't.
Yeah. I maybe just start sucking this stuff down because it's an experiential investment, but alas. But coffee aside, any wins / breakthroughs for you this week?
Yeah, huge win. I would say yesterday I had the chance to spend a good chunk of time with my PRI mentor Yoshi, and that was just a lot of aha moments. I really didn't feel like I had anything that was super unclear until we started fucking around with stuff, and then all the questions started to bloom up, and I got a little bit better at a few assessment pieces, and we just like, now that I've had a good chunk more experience implementing that stuff, like almost pretty much every single day, I had more of a reference to be like, hey, when this is happening or this type of trend, and when I'm seeing pupils dilated like this, like really, it's just been, I'm enamored with it. And so it just feels like I
little observational tells that it goes completely unrecognized by 99.9% of the population. But
Zero
if you
idea.
Really know to look for it. It could be very telling and ailments. And
yes. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that was really fucking awesome. How about for you?
Sweet. For me, I hit a bench PR today. That was cool.
Hell yeah.
For anyone who's been in my orbit recently, I have not done a lot of barbell work other than deadlifts. It's been a focus strictly on high intensity, very high force production machine work for the last year and a half. However, it was kind of an experiment to myself, kind of looking at other academic things in the fitness space of, there's the old adage of, oh, well, if you do free weights or barbell work, you're working on stabilizer muscles and things like that. Well, there's less credence to that I've found, and more to the fact of trading resources of what your brain can do in terms of balance and coordination or just pure force production. And so you lower the total amount of force production that you have available in your muscles by having extra balance and coordination demands, i.e. weights in free space.
Right.
So I've been minimizing that and just going for straight strength in the most stable plane possible in a lot of the lifts. And I have not tried to revisit bench press in almost 2 years now. In doing so, which kind of a little bit laughs in the face of a lot of people being like, oh, but they're stabilizer muscles. And most of the academia being like apples to apples, like they're the same. Like if you make yourself stronger systemically, you're going to be able to be better at a free weight modality. Just, it's going to be not at a 1-to-1 rate because your brain has to balance coordination. So I retested bench press and I PR'd like handily.
Yeah, what did you do like the other week? It was like, was
I
it
did
not
285 for 6, and I had never benched in like a year and a half.
Yeah, okay, that's fucking
And then,
great.
so I just hit 330 today for a single.
Hell yeah.
And that's just on making my machine presses
disgusting.
Yeah, making that strong as fuck, humbly speaking.
I mean,
and then
no need to be humble about it.
Going back to free weights and being like, oh, there's a lot of cross-pollination here. It's not just mutually exclusive machine work, bench work. There's a lot of crosstalk if you know how to scale one to benefit the other.
Yeah.
So it just goes to show that, not everything has to be the glam pumping iron version of barbell work and free weight work.
Sure.
You can get plenty out of machines, and then it will just backfill what you want to do if you want to revisit free weights. And
did you enjoy it?
I did.
Did it make you like want to keep benching at all? Or like what?
More so out of a curiosity aspect of, how much far can I take that if I still focus on pushing machines as far as possible? And just kind of looking back
and just like popping in every couple months and
seeing. And, it felt the best on my joints. It felt the best on my shoulders it's ever felt. And just a quick little visit in and out. I was like, well, that's not bad.
Fuck.
So that also kind of wraps back around. So we're talking about programming or programs or not having programs and what that can do. So what are your thoughts on the necessity of a program?
I think if you have any anticipation, desire, expectation to accomplish anything in terms of your physical goals, your wellness goals, it's a non-negotiable.
I 100% agree.
I would argue that you should not even really start unless you have some semblance of a plan. And some that is not
to follow.
Yes. Yeah. That is not like in your head, like I'm going to do something. Well, maybe I'll take this back in vivo. You need a plan. You absolutely need a plan, because what will happen is you will show up, and I know you've had this happen. This happens to me if I don't have a plan. You go to train and you're lost instantly. Because what was the last thing you did? And what should I work on today? Should I start with hinging or should I push? Or, well, I've been feeling like my forearms need a little extra work. Should I start there? Well, then what about my nervous system? And then if and you're just like, oh, actually, fuck it. I'm going to go home and do nothing instead.
Yeah. Or if you do decide to stay, you're just going to do a haphazard sequence of events that, and again, I will also rescind some of the snark in this and say that if you are just getting started, that's a great starting point. Just also showing up is a great thing, and we have to underline that and give credit where it's due.
100%.
However, for you to really get the most out, if you are taking your health, your wellness, your longevity seriously, you have to have a structure. It needs to be progressive, and it needs to have a direction that you're going toward. It needs to be phasic. You need to know how to pivot from one phase to the next to get the most out of what you're doing, because it is very simple to listen to your body, your emotions, your senses, and think that you're killing it and doing absolutely nothing to move the needle forward. And unfortunately, a lot of people live on that island. I see it countless times every single day.
Yeah.
I've seen people that are doing less weight than they did the week before, having full well knowledge that they are not injured, that they're not going through anything. They just don't have a plan or direction. And, we've talked about this at length too. It's like, it needs to be empirical and data driven.
Right.
It can be granular. It can be 1 rep a week on something, but
it will be.
Yeah. And it just needs to be moving yourself forward, because your body is brutally efficient at adaptation, and it's not going to give you very much for nothing.
Yes. Yeah. And it is brutally cost cutting and corner taking and maximizing its own preservation efficiency.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Keeping muscle on you is metabolically inefficient.
Right.
So you have to force your body into submission, and it has to be done in a very calculated way. Just because there is an over correction to that too, in doing too much. And a lot of people also do that. Hey, if I just show up every single day and crush it, I'm going to be an Adonis or a supermodel. That's also now how it works.
Yeah.
So to get the absolute most, to make it sustainable, to make it scalable, and to take it well into your years for you to feel your best, there has to be a plan. You have to, enlist people that can help you with that plan, or just, there's a lot of conflicting information out there. It's tough.
It is tough.
It is tough, but find people that have repeatable results with their clientele. Yeah. Whether it be in your gym, a influencer or trainer you find online, but it helps to have someone with more knowledge than you to distill down the noise, because there's an infinite amount of it. Manage your expectations too, with a lot of the internet being very flashy, whether being edited or people that are genetically superior, which plays a huge part. Yeah. But regardless of what your genetic baseline is, you can take it incredibly far for years and decades, but you have to have a plan. Yeah. This whole thing was a very long-winded way of saying you just have to have a plan.
I mean, it deserves the wind. You've spawned 2 questions in my head.
Run it up.
Very fucking different from one another. The first is, do you remember the first plan that you were ever on that you were really like
100%.
about?
Yeah, 100% I do. It was a men's fitness ABC 3 days a week workout. It's generally at that point comprised of an A, a B workout, 4 blocks, and maybe an ancillary ab thing or a finisher. And it was a good place to start because I knew nothing.
Sure.
And I was with friends of mine who knew more than me, thankfully. They were also adhering to this plan, but they at least made it work for themselves and it moved the needle for themselves farther along. And I was just a small, like, oh, I don't know, what are we doing? And, you know, it was a nice inspiration because they're all much larger, much stronger than I am. But we've talked about this too. They didn't make me feel shitty.
Yeah.
I trained with a gentleman named Aaron, John, and Andrew. Andrew's nickname was Dizzle. And no, they were a great gang and they showed me, you know, these also ripped jacked dudes, which I would then later learn years later. It's like, oh, you can't look like that doing that with 135 pounds. It's like, okay. Yeah. There's more to this. But when you're a kid and you don't know any better.
Oh, of course.
You're like, oh, if I just do this, I'm going to look like him.
Sure.
But it was a great place to start.
So
that was my first program that I adhered to. And you know, you riff with your friends too. What did you find? Oh, well, this guy does this crazy thing. And that's still alive and well today. Everyone sees something that's usually a shock and awe sales tactic of here's the gnarliest workout you could possibly do.
Oh my God.
With 4 supersets, 40,000 finishers. And
what's the guy who passed away? He was
Rich Piana.
Yeah.
The 8-hour arm
fucking
day.
like dude.
So a lot of it's very sensationalized. But regardless of how obscene they may be, it still helps to have a direction. Whether or not it's a sordid one, you have to figure it out along the way.
Yep.
But do your own experiment. That's another big piece of this is you need to do your own due diligence. Know that your body is very sluggish to change. And the feedback that you're going to get, the results from any large scale change will take bare minimum 3 months. Most likely your first 10 pull should be 6.
Yeah.
And then see, did this work for me?
Right.
What am I getting out of it?
Yep.
And that's just the game.
Yeah. Don't change everything, every single part of what you're doing in 8 weeks, thinking like, well, I've built all this capacity and strength and knowledge and skill. And it's like, dude, you just just woke up, brother.
Yeah. And so that's a tough thing too, is finding the discipline and the patience to see it through, which is an asterisk because we're going to lean into discipline and what that can be a good thing and a bad thing later on. What was the second question? I know I just ran away with that one.
No, it's good. I have no idea anymore. Yeah, it is vaporized.
All right. So we touched on moving things, being fitter, being in the gym, programming. Now the step brother, sister to the power production is how well you can move your body through training.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we both can agree that there is going to be snags along the way. You're going to push harder than you think you need to. Things are going to mount up, bind up, get fussy.
Yeah. How
important is mobility to training? And where do you kind of see the balance of where it should be implemented along the way?
Yeah, I think it is an absolute necessary piece of your entire training program. Like it needs to be in there in some way, shape, or form. And I'm not talking about like sitting on the ground and doing like windshield wipers for like 20 seconds and then being like, all right, my hips are like opened up and I've done something. Like you have facilitated no fucking change in your hip capsule, which is like the most stubborn part of you to make any change neurologically, physically. You have to understand that mobility training is strength training. It's just, I don't know why it has a different name. It's not. It's the same fucking thing. And your ability to increase your active control of range of motion is like, why is that not sexy? Because it sucks. It sucks ass in a way that is so unique.
Yes. It's the least engaging, boring, also painful process. Yes. There's no sex appeal to it.
Yep.
At least when you rip a set and
Oh,
yeah, this is great. I feel empowered, amazing,
Yep.
better than I've ever felt.
Yes.
Until you like maybe look at your joint again, you're like, there's some residual damage here. Then you're like, well, I don't want to do a bunch of controlled articular rotations for my shoulder
That's
and
right.
a bunch of band work.
Nobody does.
Yeah. And I would agree with the hips too, because if anyone's ever tried to reset their hips or a function in them, while the shoulder is the biggest counterbalance thing of bullshit, there's less counterbalancing bullshit, but the forces at play in your hips
are crazy
that you have to fight against to realign is bonkers. I'm making up a word.
Yes.
Re-bonkers.
It is fucking, it's a rebonkers on Nike. Do you know that?
No.
Do you know that fucking, I'm playing you a clip the second that we break and you're going to be fucking crying until we start the next the chapter.
I love it.
Yeah, no, I think it's an absolute must. And I think people, you said it really well. Like it fucking sucks. You don't get the same feedback and reward. No one's impressed if I sit on the ground in a pigeon pose and create as much tension as humanly possible for me into the ground. It doesn't look like anything, but I would argue, having done both things, maximum effort deadlift versus a 100% effort isometric into a wall, the iso is harder. Like every part of you has a fucking breakdown and you're like going Elvis through the whole system. And there's a rhyme and reason to why you do these types of things to build strength, again, in the joint capsule, in the connective tissue, in the ligaments, and all of those other structures that they don't get the same type of specific stimulus that they need to be bolstered and come along for the ride with all of your other strength progressions. Like, because once you leave that machine press, if that's all you ever do, you are not this candidate, but, and you're in some degree of like an angle that you're not used to, your shit sucks. Like all you have is that strength in that like linear plane. It's the high rocks person. It's the CrossFit person. You move them sideways, they're fucked.
Yeah,
like
everything else is a check engine light.
Yes. Yeah. So
Or
I think
the raging alarm when you're playing Operation.
the fucking alarm downstairs.
Yeah.
That little bird siren.
Time of recording, we dodged a bunch of bullets today of other ambient noise problems, and then we walked into the building today.
And it was humming.
Pretty much it was a very loud white noise fire alarm-esque constant thing. And like, here we fucking go.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. But we're here. We're fucking cruising.
I'm sure you would suggest and administer that getting ahead of a mobility pain is better than having to recoil from a mobility pain.
Man, yeah, because the comeback is very slow and arduous, and you are now forced to do the non-sexy work that you avoided and ignored because guess what?
Spoiler alert, I am the react to pain person. Now I get ahead of it generally, but
sure, most people are. And like we talked about in our little pain arc, people usually, even in their rehab success, they're like, oh, hell yeah. Like it's been like 40 fucking hours and I'm starting to feel a little bit better. Time to send it full flare again. And no, it's not. Like we got to give it a little more.
Yeah, it's definitely a do as I say, not as I do. We will condemn always saying there's not enough time, but a lot of times, sometimes balancing all things in a busy life, there are corners cut, and that's generally mine. But I do try to get better. If I have a client, they're either late or drop for an hour and I have a little bit of time, it's either I need to go home and walk the dog or I'm hitting the floor and trying to shut something out. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a good example I can give in terms of like programming and how people can wrap their head around like, you don't have to think of these things as exclusively, independent parts of your training. Like you can start your workout with something like a car, right? Like familiarize yourself with your joint space. Let's say we're hitting upper body stuff.
For those who don't know, a car is a controlled articular rotation for a joint.
Yeah, it's basically a very fancy and intentional joint circle where you're trying to control the articulation of the joint. Yeah, so you're doing that to establish and better layer your motor control, right? Like we said this a little bit ago, like the way I always say it is our bodies are whores for efficiency. And, you know, those cars that drive around with like Google mapping the earth constantly. Yeah. So you have one of those. And when you never put your shoulder behind your body, or you never rotate your humerus fully into internal rotation and horizontal abduction, which is out to your side and behind you in a fancy way, your body like forgets how to put you in that space.
Yeah, if you don't use it, you lose it.
The only person that this does not apply to is fucking Charlie Wonka's grandpa Joe, who laid in bed for 20 years and
until the
got
golden ticket came. He's like, actually, I'm fantastic.
I've been doing my cars under this
Talk
fucking...
about playing the long game. That motherfucker was chestnut checkers incarnate.
Dude, oh my God. But yeah, you can and should incorporate this into your training. I make anybody who I write programming for do them, and they're like, oh, fuck, I don't want to be the guy in the gym like standing in the corner waving my arms around. I'm like,
too bad.
I don't fucking care.
Yeah,
you paid me, and this is what we're doing. There's a reason you paid me. We're doing this.
Yes, I am looking at the long game. You are not.
Exactly.
I am dodging roadblocks you don't even know exist yet.
Yeah, because they will come. And then you can use these max effort ISOs in end ranges to get a better strength arc in your bench, right? Like where the muscle belly has the most leverage, you want to try to bolster that on both the short end and the longest range of that, movement. And so this type of training does that. Better understanding your joint does that. Better treating your connective tissue does that. That's all mobility work, but it's all just the same fucking thing. So having a plan is actually like paramount.
I feel that.
Don't not.
Get you.
Yeah. Training through pain.
Training through pain.
Yeah. Now that you got the wheels turning on the pain roadhouse. When's the last time you had somebody get a little tweak mid lift and they look at you like fucking Papa? What have I done?
I mean, it probably happens once, twice a month.
Sure.
Generally, it's going to be erector quadrant or adductor, or sometimes just somewhere in the trap levator area.
Like that nice, what do they call it when the guys get hit in football? What the fuck do they say? I've got there's like a name for it, and it's not a good name, but it's, it'll come to me eventually.
Okay. Respect.
Yeah.
But it happens, man. It's adductors, little things that I try to preface or prepare everyone. It says like, listen, when you're pushing hard, things are going to happen. You're also going to have off days where you think you're focused on everything and you lose focus for at least a little bit and something happens. So I try to, not that we're trying to normalize injury or pain, but it's part of the process.
Yeah.
Because you're already, to get the most out of lifting, you have to put yourself in a baseline level of discomfort anyway.
Right.
Strain on the body is good for adaptation. It's good for evolution. It's how we're designed. But every once in a while, things will go awry. You'll push a little too far. You'll find the maximum threshold and something will go boing or like tweak and, and sometimes they'll look at you like, oh, it's like, it's okay.
Yeah.
Nothing tore off the bone. You're not going to be paralyzed. But if it's your first time getting a tweak, you just have to, depending on where it is in the body and how the origin came about, you have to just manage expectations. Like, okay, this is most likely going to hurt for a couple days. This is going to now influence training and what we do or don't do for 7 to 14 days. But you're fine. Move on. Previous episodes notwithstanding, but that's training through pain. It's a nuanced thing for sure. So when it comes to yourself, the people you train, the people you also assist by way of therapy, how do you help them navigate a spectrum that is acceptable in terms of pain and strain, as this is fair, this is green lit, or this is what needs to be really addressed or shut down when it comes to your training if it gets to this level? How do you help identify that scale for people?
No, that's a great question. I would say there's two camps primarily. There's a chronic pain camp. There's people that are so riddled with something that neurologically they're so hypersensitive to any type of stimulus and everything is a threat. And if you've had back pain for 7 years, let's say, and you don't know how to not sense this piece of like discomfort, part of it is literally talking to them about rewriting some of their own thinking patterns around, is it pain or is it just sensation? Is it the anticipation of pain or is it just is there not even pain here when I do this movement and you know, whatever. So there's that camp of people that it can get pretty deep into like pain psychology stuff. And then there's people that, let's say they got a little tweak doing Jefferson curl, right? Which is basically just like if you've ever played Snake on like an old Nokia phone, you try to like fucking make a mad tight turn. That's you. That's a Jefferson curl. That's literally how I explain it to patients and clients too. So
like the most deficit low back
slither
deadlifts.
along yourself. Yeah. Get your fucking chin in your belly button.
Very Marilyn Manson of people.
Yeah, you gotta experiment a little bit. But if you're having some kind of tweaky thing in a lift, in part of your training, in part of your rehab, does it start to subside within moments? If we did like a little bit of a low level ISO, does that tamper it down?
Kind of knocking the dust off kind of scenario.
Typically it would, yeah. Or the other good rule of thumb is if your baseline discomfort, pain, whatever you want to call it, that we're working with today is a 2. We're going to do some stuff to talk to the problem. You're going to feel more of it because we have to talk to it. Tomorrow in 24 hours, if it feels like it is a 4.5, we're still in the green zone. We did enough to piss it off, to just have a discussion, slap it across the face, and then walk out the front door. If at that 48-hour point, we're climbing in that pain scale, we're 6, we're 7, we did too much, you got to taper off. Whatever that 2-day, prior point was of stimulus of work, now we know that your capacities are below that threshold, and that's still good information.
Yeah.
And I would argue that is still beneficial. And so when you get people to understand like, oh, that is a spectrum. There is a time frame to this. There is oscillation and peaks and valley, and normalizing that for people, they feel much more comforted by like, oh, it's good that we made it a little angrier. Yeah, it is good.
No, I think it's a good call out too, to kind of rest people's worries that if they're listening to this and you're saying, oh my God, you're in the better part of 50% of absolute pain for someone, why would you do that? If anyone's ever done like significant rehab, it's miserable.
Yeah. Not every fucking moment of your comeback.
You have to do that. And it has to be done safely and professionally and administered in a way that is moving you toward your end goal of being better or moving better or being able to withstand load and lifting and all of that. But yeah, you have to, like I said, talk to it. You have to see where the cards lie, and you have to really start pushing the boundaries. And not everyone has the same tolerance for pain. And in a similar way, I use the 1 to 10 scale myself with people that I train. Of when we're first getting started, I want to have them feel something like a 6 or a 7. And
in terms of like rate of perceived exertion.
Yes. Yeah, and how gnarly it felt and how safe they felt doing it. But the same thing, much like pain tolerance to strain tolerance, not to make that rhymey or rappy, but
it's legit.
It's legit. But I'll tell them, is like, listen, you need to get comfortable with this, because if you can be comfortable with that, you don't realize that what you're feeling right now is probably a 3.
Right.
And most people will inflate this.
Oh my God.
And it's just like, all right, that's a thing.
There's a meme of Horton here's a Who, the cover, and it says Horton here's a bitch ass liar. And there was a caption above it that said, when my patient says this is an 11 out of 10, Horton here's a bitch ass liar. And I was fucking howling and honking and goosing around.
Yeah.
And I've saved it, and I will send it to people appropriately.
It's not to say that things don't hurt. They do.
Sure.
But everyone is a hard ass human. They just have to access it.
Yes.
And just relieve some of the fear, relieve some of the tension, and know that you can withstand a metric fuck ton. And if just getting through pain and feeling what your limits are, your limit might be shitty that day. You might hit the 4 or 5 and just tap immediately, but you better get to 5.5 tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like your livelihood, your life, your comfort, your ability to move forward and have a better life depends on it. So pain sucks, sure. But it's finding, again, assessment and professionals and your own tolerance and your own inner dialogue of like, is this actually killing me?
Yeah,
Is
and it
this-
changes, right?
Yeah.
Like how you started and your ability to trust yourself to push as hard as you fucking can is very different. Like you've developed a deep level of trust within yourself of
100%.
knowing. I mean, when you're fucking single leg extending that whole stack, like you always get off and you're like, that feels like shit because it's really hard. You're not hurt though.
No.
But the effort and the level of intensity and how hard you're pushing is very intense on the joint,
Yeah.
on all the stuff, right?
Yeah,
So
and it definitely did not start that way.
Right.
I definitely just didn't get to ninja roll onto that machine
and
be like,
just
"Kaboom, kaboom,
fucking
kaboom, kaboom."
yoink
Like,
it to the moon.
no.
Yeah.
So it's just stay the course, live through pain, but also do what you can to improve upon that pain. And just try your damnedest. However you're feeling pain when it regards to day-to-day life and your fitness, know that it's not a permanent thing. There's plenty of things that can be done. You may have to arguably suffer a little bit for it, but life is so much better on the other side.
For sure. 100%. I think something you made me think of too, in terms of like having people really recognize their ability to push past that point of self-limiting belief is
And I'm going to cut you off real quick and just say, I saw your eyes, and yes, raw dog.
okay. Well, back into our innermost fucking zen fucking castle. Here we go. Is hiring a trainer like ourselves in some capacity, because when you see somebody push against a leg press, whatever, and they're like, and it's moving, and you're like, dude, that's like you're literally at a 3, and they're like, oh, that felt like a 7, and you're like, Horton is listening. Let me fucking explain this to you. Do you see this elephant? He can hear all things, and you're full of shit. But in all seriousness, like I cannot tell you how many people are shocked and empowered when I'm like, put a 45-pound plate on this leg press thing, and they're like, there's no way. And I'm like, trust me. Just trust me. Just push against it. And they're like, they push really fucking hard and it moves. And they're like, wow, that was really hard. I'm like, yeah. And they're like, wow, I feel fucking awesome.
Yeah. Oh, no,
Every time.
It is a beautiful thing,
Yes.
exposing people to how strong they can be.
Yeah.
And that's not gate kept in any way other than unlocking it in someone's mind to trust themselves.
Yeah.
And have a professional that they can trust to not hurt them.
Of course.
Along the way.
Of course.
But to expose them to a new horizon that they didn't even think is possible. And then just live in that and beyond. That's
Yes.
why my job fucking rules.
Yes.
It's because man, woman does not matter. You see the fucking lights turn on immediately.
Dude.
When they're like, there's no way. And then they do it, and you're like, okay, now it begins.
Yep. It's that the little kid gets like awoken in them. They're just like, wow, on the playground again, fucking with a new thing to explore.
Yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. So in terms of the gym, a lot of what we do in respective capacities is making people stronger. Do you think... Well, let me phrase this in a certain way. What do you think the true purpose of the gym is?
I mean, in my mind, I know where we align on this. It is a place designed to help you build strength and muscle and power. And yeah, I mean, it's all weights. Like it is a place to resistance train.
Sure.
Obviously there's treadmills and other things there, but like, yeah, I think the sole purpose of it is lifting.
Yeah. Why I'm saying this is, and how this ties into the whole programming arc, is the gym as often viewed as the one-stop shop for all bodily change. And it's going to do all of the things. I'm just going to go to the gym. I'm going to get stronger. I'm going to get skinnier. I'm going to get leaner. It can't really account for all of those things, and it shouldn't. And what I think people need to realize is that if you want to recomp your body, if you want a new lease on life, if you want to feel better in your skin, you want to be stronger, you should just be looking at the gym for getting stronger. Reason being is if you can put all of your eggs in that basket there,
right?
You make your muscles larger, you raise your metabolic rate. That helps you with fat loss. It helps you burn more fat at rest. It helps symbiotically work with things like your diet, which has no bearing on the gym whatsoever, and whatever you're doing for cardio, which can be any number of modalities. This also goes into our next episode after this, which is pretty much all things cardio. But the gym itself is not a place for you to try to burn as many calories as possible,
right?
To try to lose weight.
Yep.
It is a piece of the puzzle that can help all of those things.
Yep.
But it's one purpose, realistically, if you can focus on it, is just make yourself stronger.
Yeah.
And that will, if you can maximize what you're doing at the gym, it will make all the other pieces of the health, wellness, weight loss, leaning, pie, party, whatever you want to call it, so much easier.
Yeah.
But I think that's one thing that I see the most often is, and don't get me wrong, if you need to get out of your house to go to the gym and you are better served on a treadmill for your cardio or a stair, like a step mill or a bike, totally get that. If you are better, if you have to leave your house, if you know you're not going to walk around your neighborhood,
Sure.
then fine. There's an asterisk there
Yeah.
that you just need to go somewhere to do the work. Sure.
Right.
But the gym for gym's sake is just building more muscle on your body. And that will do wonders for every other goal that you have. Aesthetically, feeling the best, your overall health, your overall longevity.
And the simplicity of it. I think there's another point that we have written about discipline versus burnout. And you're making me really see the correlation between, like you said, having the eggs in just the gym basket. You don't need every single one there. You need like 3 of your 12, right? Because you still need the other 3 in the cardio and the other 3 in your sleep and the other 3, like, right? They go in different places. And instead of you trying to make this drastic, everything shifts about your life in this one place and spending 3 hours there, that's what ends up happening. You have this ideology that gets instilled that, like you said previously, the more you do, the more profound my outcome will be. And it's really not that way in this case. And so if you can treat these things like respecting their lanes or even establishing them through discipline, right, is what that really is, you really won't get that burned out because you're not just like slaving away at the gym and it becomes a place that you resent. And it also, on the other side, shouldn't just be like your entirety of social hour.
Sure.
Like, it's a little fucking annoying when people are gabbing it up, sitting by a machine for like mad long, or you're just like texting, like get in there and do your fucking thing. Put your phone in the locker, like chill with that. But I think your rate of burnout is so much less when you can treat those things in their disciplined, appropriate category. And plus, I'm a huge proponent of being in some way, shape, or form outside if you're going to do cardio anyway for some other neuro reasons. But I think that is a profound thing for people to maybe wrestle with a little bit and see if it wouldn't serve them as a way to upgrade some of their simple disciplinary changes.
Yeah, it's took me a long time for myself to learn as well that there is absolutely diminishing returns the more time you spend in the gym. It ceases to be a positive place and becomes a negative place.
And then you dread it
Right. Or you just don't even realize that you're shooting yourself in the foot the entire time.
Sure.
Whether it be cannibalizing more time that could be better served during your day or just taking too much out of your body to recover from and straying away from the path that's actually going to get you to your goals.
Yeah.
So I definitely implore a lot of people that maybe lean on the gym as something as every part of their day is to really pare it back. Learn to get the most out of the gym using the bare minimum amount of time there.
Yeah.
Get the most out of it and leave and set yourself up for your next workout for it to be as robust and powerful as possible. And not just be like, oh man, I'm still sore from my last workout. Or it's like, that's a terrible place to be.
Yeah.
If you're new, there's an asterisk there too.
Yep.
Your body has to figure some shit out.
Of course.
But if you are an intermediate or advanced level lifter and you're constantly bringing pain into the gym, you're fucking up.
Yeah. Yeah. Your load proportions are just like they're way out of whack.
Too much volume or just you're addicted to the space.
Sure.
And that's problematic. So in what you said earlier, where do you think that balance point is? Like, where do things start to blur from like you're a disciplined individual to you don't even realize you're burning yourself out? Where do you think that is?
Oh man. I think it ends up being very sneaky. It really is very sneaky. And it is something that people need to reconcile within themselves if they are leaning on a compulsive behavior. And to be honest, I think the most common type of person that I see fall into that the easiest is just somebody who's struggled with like weight and then has shed it and looks pretty fucking awesome, but is like, I cannot afford to miss training. And you're like, you can actually like
the extreme bookends of body dysmorphia. I come from the palace of the opposite side.
Sure.
You know, the hall of mirrors that is, I'm never going to be bigger than I am. I am a tiny, emaciated little just
schmeckle.
Yeah, exactly. And so in a way, I always see that in the mirror myself, but you just have to start learning how your body actually performs. And it's just not a place where, waiting for this siren to go.
Sing that sweet song.
It's not a place that is going to constantly give you benefit if you have an aimless path. Right.
And the other side of it too is that if you are overloading on doing, I mean, I've done this, 2-hour rows and then training, like your body just is going to be completely shot. So whatever your goal is, which again loops back into like having a clear plan, having a clear understanding that is managed by somebody who knows how to get you where you want to be. That might mean if you want to train that way, you want to be very like hybrid, whatever, like that's going to mean eating a fuckload to be able to sustain that effort, right? And be able to output that power. And so, and I know what it feels like when you don't and when you do. And it's a very, very stark difference between the two. So
yeah, I'd never want anyone to go to the gym and have it feel like a stay of execution. Now, when you're in like the middle breadth of your fitness journey, it can be a slog. You just have to show up and grind. I get that.
Yeah.
But there really is a unique difference between showing up and doing the hard work and then getting the fuck out and then being like trapped there like Hotel California. And I can never leave.
For sure.
And that really is like, I think a good full circle to this whole bit where the program is going to get you in and out. If the program is administered and programmed the right way, that's what you focus on as your North Star. You do the work and you leave.
Yeah.
And if the person doing your programming is adept enough and knows your idiosyncrasies and your goals, then that's all you're really going to need. And if someone is administering 5 to 7 days a week in the gym, get a different professional.
Yeah.
Because they're anything but at that point.
Yeah.
And that's what the whole bit is if you are aimless and you're just there, if you are relying on your emotions of what you think hard is, or listening to your body's feedback signals of like, this is intense enough, or if you don't have a sequence of lifts or exercises or mobility work to get you through that day and then cut it off and leave, you're just going to sit there and just wither away and burn too much energy.
Waste your
time, cause too much inflammation that you'll have to recover from.
Yep.
And that's the full circle scenario of this whole episode is, don't get trapped at the gym. You need to be there for 4 days max. And if you're being social, you're going to be there for 90 minutes max.
Right.
And that's with a mobility component, a lifting component, and maybe
fucking around.
Yes. But that's it.
Yeah.
Pull the fucking cord. Just have it be that.
Yeah. 100%. Well said. That being said, I think if there's anybody listening that's like, hey, all right, I hear you. Now, who the fuck do I pick? Us, right? Like reach out. We can definitely help you navigate those things and do that regularly for people. Or even if you just have questions, you don't have to be like, hey, here's all this money, like help me with this stuff. Reach out, talk to us, send a message. We are happy to, this is literally the whole fucking purpose of why we're doing this is to start to build up a community of people that are trying to better themselves, and we're doing this together. And so we're not the Messiah on the hill, but we got some bits of information that can really do a lot. So feel free to reach out. Episode 15, man, in the books.
Lock it up. Leave the gym.
Yeah, get the fuck out. Lock the door behind you.